Hello everyone, in today's video we will be looking at a quick way to do auto versioning of your code using the Gradle build script. So when you create your project you are going to need two files included. This is the build.gradle file in which your plugins, repositories, dependencies and tasks are defined, and the gradle.properties file. The Gradle.properties file will contain the version number, that is the current version number, the code number, that is more to do with Android versioning, and the default branch or default version modifier that will be bumped. So I have specified mine version number as 1.0.0, the code number is 7, and the default bumping version is set to patch. It is also important to note that the value supplied in the Gradle.properties file is always treated as a string. So even though the code number is set as 7, it will not be an integer, it will be a string. Okay, so that is all that we have to do in the Gradle.properties file. In the build.gradle file, there is some more work to do. So firstly, let's start with the class version. You can call this whatever you would like. So within this class, I'm defining 4 variables: integer, major, minor, patch and code. Then in the constructor for this version class, I am getting the string called code and the string version from the Gradle.properties file. That will be done in the task. So I'm getting the code and the version as arguments for the constructor of a version class, and then setting this value with the argument dot to integer brackets. I'm setting the variables with this code here, and then the definition for major, minor and patch is just in Java it will be the split operation, so I'm splitting it on a full stop and then setting those variables as well. Then I have defined 3 methods: a bump patch, which increases the patch number by 1 and the code number by 1; the bump minor method, which increases the minor variable by 1, resets the patch variable to 0, and increasing the code variable by 1. And then the last one is the bump major method. The major variable is increased by 1, the minor variable is reset to 0, as well as the patched variable, and the code is increased by 1. Then, just to make things easier in the long run, I'm creating 2 other methods called getName, which will return the version name as a string in the format major.minor.patch. And then I'm also getting the code number over here as an integer. The next thing you would want to do is to create a new task in the build.gradle file. So mine I'm calling bump version, and I'm adding it to the group versioning. Then it is very important the task have to define the do last function, if I can call it that. I'm not sure about the correct terminology there. So it will do this whenever the task is ran. So it starts by checking whether the to bump toBump property is set in the Gradle.properties file. If it is set, it will update that value with the property that you supply when you call the task. I will explain how to do that later. If not, it will set the default toBump value to the patch version. Then I am just declaring a variable called type to the toBump string, just to make it easier for me later when I'm just printing, bumping the type version. I'm getting the version code or the code version with the project.get property and the name as specified in the Gradle.properties file, as well as the version name with a project.get property version number. It's important to have access to these two strings, the old version or the old version name and the old version code. Then I'm creating a new instance of a class version and supplying the old version code and the old version name to that class. Then I'm calling the appropriate bump method from that version class that I just defined. And then using the get name and get code methods from the version class, I'm getting the new version name and the new version code. Then I am getting the Gradle.properties file because it have to be updated after every update. So here I'm calling it updated equals the file Gradle.properties.getText. So that will return the string. The updated, I then replace the updated string with a replace first method. I'm replacing the version number, that is the name that you called the version within the Gradle.properties, equals the old version name, a variable that we have gotten from that Gradle.properties file. And I'm replacing that with the version number equals new version name. Same for the code number. I'm setting code number equals old version code to the code number new version code. Then I'm replacing the text of the Gradle.properties file with the updated string as defined. Then that should work. You can call the bump version task and it should run. To take things one step further, if you have a release task in your build.gradle pipeline, you can do the following. You can specify the release task name .finalized by bump version. This will call the bump version task every time that the release task was ran. Okay, so to use this versioning method, I can call Gradle tasks, and you will see here under the versioning task there is the task bump version. So if I call Gradle bump version without specifying any parameters, then the patch version will be bumped by 1 and the code number will be increased by 1. So from 1.0.0 to 1.0.1. To specify whether the patch, minor or major release should be bumped, you can do -p p for property to bump, or whatever you called the to bump variable inside the build.gradle file, equals, and then the type you want to bump. Let's say I say minor. Then you will see bumping the minor version 1.0.1 to 1.1.0. And just to confirm, I'm also going to run the release task with the same -p to bump minor. So this should then do the release task as well as bumping the minor version from 1.10 to 1.20. I hope you have found this video interesting. If you did, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.